Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to have you back on this channel. This is Joseph in the Holyland, a Christian tour guide. Today we are in the Israeli Museum in Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel, looking at the Jerusalem model from the time of Jesus, prior to the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 70 AD. What you see in front of you now is how Jerusalem looked like during the time of Jesus, based on archaeological evidences dug and found in the area of Jerusalem. Not only that, also based on the New Testament, the Bible, the books of the Jewish historian of the 1st century during the Roman time, Josephus Flavius. This model over here was originally built in the Holyland Hotel in Jerusalem, but only moved in the year 2006 and in June to the Israel Museum. We are standing now on the Mount of Olives from the eastern side. Over there is the west, north, and south of Jerusalem. This is how Jesus 2000 years ago, when coming from Bethany after staying for a couple of days in the house of Lazarus, Mary and Martha, and resurrected Lazarus from the tomb after being dead for 4 days, he came all the way to the Mount of Olives. He asked his disciples to bring him a donkey from the area of Bethphage, and they brought him a donkey. He rode his donkey and went all the way to the temple on Sunday to pray in the Temple Mount. On the way to the temple, halfway on the slope of the Mount of Olives, Jesus stopped and predicted the destruction of Jerusalem and also wept over Jerusalem. This is approximately where we are standing now, and this is how Jesus saw Jerusalem. So what actually did he see from the eastern side? Over here is the Temple Mount that was built by King Herod the Great in the 1st century BC during the Roman time, as the biggest project during that time in the Roman period. Here is the southern side of the city. This is the city of David, where King David the Great, the second king of Israel, almost 900 years before Jesus Christ, built his city, his palace, and he brought the Ark of the Covenant all the way from Kiryat Anavim to the area over here of the temple. Over there is the southern part of the city. This is the lower city where poor people were staying during Jesus' time, were living, where also Jesus used to come all the way to the temple through that way, since Jesus was a poor person. And over here is what we call it the upper city, where the rich people were living, where the priestly families would live. And since they were so rich and didn't want to pass by the poor people, the archaeological evidences showed that there was a bridge connecting the upper city all the way to the Temple Mount. Over here is the Antonia Fortress. This is the northern side of Jerusalem. We shall circle the model now and talk specifically about each building that we see while circling the Temple Mount. Stay tuned. These are the walls of the Temple Mount, and this gate over here was called the Shushan Gate, that leads to the temple from the eastern side. This is the Kidron Valley. All this is the Kidron Valley, or the Jehoshaphat Valley, where Jews believe that the end of days will happen over here. This is the area of Jerusalem from the southern side. We're looking at the city of David, the southern tip of Jerusalem during the time of Jesus. We're moving to the west to the area of the upper city and the Jaffa Gate. This is the Jaffa Gate. From here starts the city from the time of King Agrippa, a Roman king from the 1st century, exactly between the years 41 and 45. This was not during the time of Jesus, and this is our advantage as a Christian. We shall discuss that later, dealing with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the place of the burial tomb of Jesus Christ. This area over here, all of it wasn't during the time of Jesus. We are back to the eastern side. After circling the model itself, we shall point out for important places that Jesus saw when he was standing on the Mount of Olives. This is the most important place over here. This is the Temple Mount, and what you see over here, this is the Holy of Holies. This is the biggest project during the Roman time that was built by King Herod the Great. King Herod the Great was the king of the 1st century BC, and as documented in the Bible, in the Gospels, that Jesus was born in the last year of the reign of King Herod the Great. And of course, he's the one who ordered to kill 2,000 children under 2 years old, since he didn't recognize how Jesus looked like. We're looking at now the city of David. This is one of the most ancient places in Jerusalem, inside the walls of Jerusalem, dating back to the Chalcolithic period. We're talking about 5,000 years before Jesus Christ, and later inhabited by the Jebusites that the Bible tells us about, later conquered by King David, and declaring the city of David and Jerusalem as the capital of Israel at that time for the first time in history. He fortified his palace over here. Later, his son fortified the Temple Mount and enlarged the walls of Jerusalem to include the city of David and the Temple Mount. This is how Jerusalem looked like 900 years before Jesus Christ. All of that on the western part wasn't there during the time of King David and King Solomon. Anyway, during the Second Temple period, since this model is dealing with the time of Jesus, with the Second Temple period, Queen Helena of Adyabne came all the way in the year 40 AD and built 4 palaces in the city of David. This in the year 30, between 30 and 40. So it could be that those palaces were seen and witnessed by Jesus Christ. Jerusalem and was also so important during history throughout the ages because of one important reason: is water. We have 2 sources of water, 2 important sources of water, is the Siloam pool over here and the Gihon spring on the eastern side. This is what was mentioned in the Bible. The Siloam pool is where Jesus performed a miracle in Jerusalem, healing a blind man. 1 out of 2 miracles done by Jesus Christ. So the water, talking about water, was always an important element for a nation to flourish. So since ages, people have been in Jerusalem, wanted Jerusalem because of water. If you could see those steps over here, those were the steps leading all the way to the Temple Mount that Jesus used to take also, because as we said, he was a poor person, and this is the area of the poor people during the time of Jesus, and this is their way when they wanted to go to the Temple Mount and pray, purify themselves. And if you notice the difference between the lower city, what we call it, and the upper city, is the also way of building and the size of houses. As you can see, there's a big difference. We're now basically in the area of the southern tip of Jerusalem, where the Mount Zion is located, the Zion Gate and the Dung Gate. We'll look at now the upper city of Jerusalem, and if you look over here, this monument over here, this is the tomb of King David. What's behind it, the big structure over here, is believed to be the house of Caiaphas. Caiaphas is the high priest who took Jesus captive on Thursday until Friday. And for those who did the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, they were able to visit the church of St. Peter in Gallicanto. This is where believed to be the house of Caiaphas, and where Jesus stayed for a whole night illegally underground in the pit of that trial. We're moving to the western side, and over here, as you can see, there's a huge structure over here. This is the palace of King Herod the Great, Herod's palace, and archaeologically speaking, we were able to see so many remains and find remnants of that palace, including one of 3 towers that were built by King Herod the Great, dedicated to important people in his life. For example, he built one tower in dedication of his wife Miriam, another one in dedication of his brother Phasael, and his best friend Hippocus. So two of those 3 towers were destroyed during earthquakes in Jerusalem, different wars. Only one is now in Jerusalem. You can see it in the Tower of David Museum. I shall do another video dealing with the Tower of David, since it has so many things to see over there. As you can see, Herod's palace is so huge. And this is the area of Jaffa Gate. This is the western side of Jaffa, of Jerusalem, leading all the way to the temple as well. So we shall stop over here. And this is what Jesus saw when he came all the way from the Mount of Olives, which is on that side where people are standing. This is the Mount of Olives. So this is what Jesus was able to see, excluding this section. As we said, this was built by King Agrippa in the year 41-45. So Jesus was already in heaven. He ascended body and soul. I'm gonna zoom in to something important. This rock over here, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we are inside the walls. Okay, we are inside the walls. These are the walls from Jesus' time, and then covering the area of the Antonia fortress where Jesus was contemplated. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, or the Golgotha, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, it's located outside the walls. Now, this is why I told you before, this is for our advantage as Christians here, that those walls weren't built during the time of Jesus, during his crucifixion, because in the Jewish traditions, if you are a good Jew, if you were a good Jew, you did good deeds in your life, you will be buried. You must be buried outside the walls of Jerusalem. And so those are the walls that were during King Herod the Great, okay, when Jesus was crucified. So this is the Golgotha. So basically we are outside the walls. This means that Jesus was a good Jew and people admired him. That's why they treated him as the Jewish tradition says, that you must be buried outside the walls of Jerusalem or outside the walls of the city. This is the northern part of Jerusalem, built by King Agrippa between 41 and 45 CE. This is the biggest time Jerusalem was during its history. Basically, the old city of Jerusalem nowadays is only 0.9 square kilometer. Inside the walls of Jerusalem, there's only 37,000 people living inside the walls. But during King Agrippa, in the year 41-45, Jerusalem was in Jerusalem, more than 80,000 people were living inside the walls of Jerusalem. The walls extended all the way to the area of the Prophet Street in Jerusalem. We're talking about a huge city at that time. We're talking about 2,000 years ago. So coming to the northern side, we are on the northeastern side of the Temple Mount. This is the Antonia Fortress. This is where Jesus was condemned to death on Friday, and he went all the way. He took his cross. They gave him a very big cross, heavy cross, and went all the way to the Golgotha where I showed you before. This is the area of the pools of Bethesda, ladies and gentlemen. That was also mentioned in the Gospels, in the Bible, where Jesus performed the other miracle in Jerusalem, the second miracle. Basically, Jesus did only 2 miracles in Jerusalem. The first one was, we said, in the Siloam pool, when he healed the blind man, and over here he healed the paralyzed man on Sabbath, the pools of Bethesda. I'm gonna enter now the Israel Museum, the Bible Land Museum, and of course to see the most important finding throughout history is the Dead Sea Scrolls. Stay tuned. Thank you for coming here. Please subscribe, like my channel if you like my videos, and don't forget to turn on the bell and the notifications. Thank you so much.